Hello, my name's Gavin Meikle and I'm a trainer, a speaker and a coach. I specialise in helping my clients get their messages across to their audiences more clearly, more confidently and more convincingly. In this post, which will be the first of a series, I'm looking to share with you some ideas on the use, or should I say the misuse, of a very common and very powerful tool used by presenters all around the world. So let's switch over to the presentation now and I'll join you afterwards. Thank you. I'm talking about a massacre that is happening on our doorsteps, in our schools, in our offices, in our hotels, day in, day out. It's actually a massacre that you might even have been part of. In fact, almost certainly will have been part of, but perhaps you didn't even realise it. I'm talking about death by PowerPoint. More than 30 million PowerPoint presentations happen every day around the world. They've even found their way into weddings, would you believe it? And don't get me wrong, I'm not against PowerPoint per se. What I'm really against is the way it's used, how it's used sloppily and unintelligently. How many presentations have you sat in where the slides have looked something like this? Wordy, long, dense slides with lots of different ideas that immediately make you want to switch off, and which you know the presenter is just going to read to you. It's just a recipe for disaster. This is the normal effect it has. I'm not sure whether this man's actually dead or just heavily sedated, but whichever way, it's killed his imagination, it's killed his interest, and I believe it's about time that we stop this crime that's going on around the country and do something about it. And I'd like to share with you today some ways of doing that, because I have another vision in mind. I believe we can have a situation where we can use PowerPoint intelligently, still have audiences that are engaged, enthused, and can really understand and buy into what we're communicating. And to do this, all you need is 3 simple steps. Step 1, ban bullet points. Yeah, I know it's a big step, but those bullet points just don't work. It's not just me saying that. This is research from Professor Richard Meyer, who's a multimedia specialist, and he's studied the effect of bullet points, in fact of what happens when you remove bullet points from traditional slides. If you just leave the headings, leave the images, but take away the bullet points, instead of a decrease, we actually get a 28% increase in recall. Our audiences actually remember more when we take the data off the slide. Now, I don't think there's anybody listening to this presentation who wouldn't like to have their audience remember 28% more of what they're saying. But it goes much further than that. Professor Mayers also suggested that when you measure knowledge transfer, i.e. the ability of the audience to utilise that information that they're remembering, it goes up by a staggering 79%. Can you imagine the impact that would have on businesses, on education, if we all could get something near 79% increase in knowledge transfer? It's just mind-blowing. So hopefully by now you're convinced that there's a good reason for getting rid of bullet points, but you might still be wondering, well, why don't they work? Well, the reason seems to be because of the way our memory works. We have 3 types of memory: sensory memory, long-term memory and working memory. And while sensory memory and long-term memory can process huge amounts of information at any given time, working memory is a bottleneck. It has a limited capacity and in fact can only handle between 3 and 4 pieces of information at any given time. That's why when we present it rich information dense slides, it goes into overload and only a fraction of that data gets through into our long-term memory. So what can we do to avoid this problem in the future? Well, what we need to do is get rid of those bullet points and use slides that have just one simple idea or concept per slide, backed up by suitable visual aids, pictures and graphs and charts, and then supported by an auditory narrative that makes sense, that flows. So step 1, ban those bullet points. Step 2, well, what do we replace the bullet points with? Well, we replace them with diagrams, with charts, and with appropriate photographs. And yes, I have to admit, those are my feet in that slide. So what sort of images? Well, quality images that support our verbal messages. Not cheap clip art that looks tacky, but good quality images that say the same things we are saying verbally, but in a visual medium. And there's now no excuse for not using good quality images. There are lots of databases online that allow you to download or purchase, or download free in many cases, high quality images that you can use in your presentations. Yoto Photo, Stock Exchange, iStock Photo, etc. You just need to learn where to look. Second thing about the diagrams and images is to use clear and simple charts. If you see another chart or graph looking like this in a presentation, it's just unacceptable. Nobody can understand the data that's on that. There's far too much information. The brain just cannot process it. You're much more likely to think about what you're going to have for lunch rather than what's on the slide. You need to learn to extract the data you need and present only that which is relevant to your audience and to the messages that you're given. Clear, concise, simple graphs that can be taken in a glance, and then the audience can return to your narrative. And finally, some simple diagrams using the drawing functions within PowerPoint to show flows or relationships between items, such as this little set of diagrams here, which shows the stages that an audience might go through during the course of a presentation. i.e., just like you listening to this presentation, you might have started out a bit skeptical. I want you to end up enthused. To get you there, I've hopefully aroused your curiosity and got you interested. So we've talked about banning the bullet points, we've talked about replacing those bullet points with quality images. The third and final point I'm going to talk about in this presentation is to link your slides together, to tell a story, to tell a compelling argument that flows from step by step logically, that takes your audience from where they are at the beginning of the presentation and the problem they're facing to the solution, to the desired result that they want by implementing the solution that you're providing. You need to think of your slides as a bit like the images in a roll of movie film, and your verbal delivery, your script if you like, as the soundtrack to that movie. So by telling a story which takes your audience from point A to point B compellingly, logically, is so powerful. And if you think about it, human beings have been using stories for years to get their messages across. So we should be doing that in our presentations. Just because we choose to use PowerPoint to support that doesn't mean to say that a story doesn't still work as well. So there you have it. Ban the bullet points, use quality images, and tell a good story. I hope you'll join with me in stopping this needless slaughter that is death by PowerPoint. I hope I've inspired you to think about your whole new slides in a whole new different way. And if you're interested in finding more about this approach, or you'd like to contact me, please feel free to leave a comment to this blog or to contact me at the details below. I'd love to speak to you. Hello again. I hope you really enjoyed that presentation and that it gave you some food for thought. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Did you find it useful? Was the quality okay? What sort of topics would you like to hear me talk about? Your feedback would help shape the future posts on this blog. So please get in touch with me. I'd really appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing from you really soon. Thank you.